calloused and rough. "This junction's completely shot," Alex observed. "We'll need to fabricate a replacement." "I've already calibrated the fabricator," Lima replied, still keeping their distance and face hidden. As Alex began cutting through the damaged section, a shower of sparks erupted unexpectedly, arcing toward Lima. With a startled gasp, Lima jumped backward, the sudden movement causing the hood to fall away. Alex turned, ready to check if his colleague was hurt, when his breath caught in his throat. Standing before him was not the rough alien technician he'd expected, but a woman, humanoid, but clearly alien, of such striking beauty that he nearly dropped his welding torch. Her skin was a soft, luminous blue that seemed to glow in the dim light. Silver hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing a face with features both familiar and exotic. Her eyes, deep blue and almond-shaped, regarded him with surprise and something else. Amusement, perhaps.
The night sky was dark, filled with heavy clouds that covered the broken moon. The ruins of an old alien city lay silent, the buildings broken like the bones of giants. Cold winds whispered through the empty streets, carrying the smell of dust and burned stone. But inside this silence, a cry suddenly echoed, breaking the stillness like shattered glass. "Please, someone, help my sister." A small alien child shouted. Her voice cracked, her chest hurt, but she did not stop calling. Her arms shook as she carried a smaller figure, her little sister, who was trembling with strange, violent shakes. The girl's skin glowed faintly blue in the dark, her veins lit like small rivers of light. The younger sister's eyes rolled back, her mouth opened but no words came out, only broken gasps. The older child stumbled forward, her bare feet bleeding against the sharp stones. She was scared, but she did not stop. Every step felt heavy, but the weight of her sister pushed her forward. Her voice carried through the night, desperate and full of fear. "Please save my sister, she won't stop shaking." For a long time, no one answered. The city stayed quiet. Only the wind moved. Only the shadows listened. The child's heart sank, and tears fell down her face. Her people were gone, scattered or hiding, and no one cared about two weak little girls. She was alone, or so she thought. A sound came from the corner of the broken street, a crunch of boots on stone, slow and heavy. The child froze, her body trembling, her sister slipping from her arms. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, taller than any alien, broad shoulders wrapped in armor. The glow of a visor cut through the dark, cold and sharp. It was a human. The alien child gasped, fear twisting inside her chest. Her people always spoke of humans as destroyers, warriors who burned planets and stole resources. Her first thought was to run, but her legs refused to move. Her sister's shaking grew worse and her strength was gone. She could only stare, wide-eyed, as the human slowly raised his hands, showing he carried no weapon. His voice was calm, deep and strange in her ears. "I heard you calling," he said. "I don't want to hurt you." The child shook her head, clutching her sister. "Close, you are human," she whispered, her voice breaking. The human nodded once, stepping closer with slow, careful movements. "Yes, I am," he said. "But I want to help." The girl's heart beat faster, confusion burning in her mind. Humans never helped aliens, at least that was what the stories said. Her people told tales of fire raining from the sky, of humans taking everything. But this man's voice was not cruel. His steps were not loud with anger. Instead, he lowered himself to her level, kneeling on the cracked stone. "What happened to your sister?" he asked softly. The child's lips trembled as she spoke. She was fine yesterday, but then her body started shaking. She won't stop, and I don't know what to do." Her small hands pressed against her sister's glowing skin, trying to hold her steady. "I thought she was cold, but she burns like fire." The human studied the girl's sister, his eyes sharp and full of thought. He set down the bag he carried, a strange box that glowed with tiny blue lights. The alien child flinched at the sight of it, thinking it might be a weapon, but the man's voice was steady. "She is not just sick," he murmured. Something else is wrong here. The child shook her head quickly, her fear growing. Please don't hurt her, please don't take her away. The human looked at her with eyes that held no anger, only something else, something strange. It was kindness. He opened the box and pulled out a device that hummed with soft light. The alien girl's breath caught, her body tense. Her people never trusted human machines, they said such things killed. But her sister's shaking grew worse, her body almost breaking from the violent tremors. The older child's heart screamed inside her chest. Torn between fear and hope, the human spoke again, his tone low and certain. If you let me try, maybe I can save her. The girl hesitated, her hands clutching tighter around her sister. The silence between them felt heavy, broken only by the little one's painful gasps. Finally, with tears running down her face, the child nodded once. Her voice was a whisper, weak but clear. Please, save her. The human's visor glowed brighter as he leaned closer, his tools ready. But in the distance, unseen by them both, shadows moved, eyes glowing in the ruins, watching, waiting. The night was not silent anymore, and danger was near. The little alien girl sat on the cracked ground, her sister still shaking in her arms. Her eyes stayed on the tall human who now knelt in front of her. She wanted to run, but she had no strength, and her sister's body was too weak. Her mind was torn. Fear said, humans are dangerous. But hope whispered, maybe he can help. The human reached slowly into his glowing box, his hands steady and calm. He pulled out a clear container filled with water. The girl stared at it, her throat dry, her lips cracked. She had not drunk clean water in days, but she shook her head when he held it out. Her fear was too strong, her sister needed it more. The man's voice was quiet, almost gentle. It's safe, he said, pushing the container a little closer. The child's shaking hands took it, not for herself but for her sister. She lifted her sibling's head, pouring a little water against her lips. The younger one gasped, choking slightly, but then swallowed. The glow in her skin dimmed for a moment, the violent shakes slowing only a little. The alien girl looked up at the human again, her eyes still wet with fear. Why are you helping us?" she whispered. The man paused for a long time, his visor reflecting the faint blue light of the sick child. Finally, his voice came low, almost like he was speaking to himself. "Because no one should be left alone." The girl blinked, not understanding, but his words felt heavy and real. She wanted to believe him, but the stories in her head were strong. Stories of humans who burned villages, who took food, who left only ashes behind. Her hands trembled as she looked at him. "Humans don't save aliens," she said softly. They destroy." The man lowered his visor so his face could be seen. He looked tired, with lines of pain around his eyes, but there was no anger there, only honesty. "Maybe some do," he admitted, "but I am not here to destroy." He leaned closer, his voice calm. "I am here to keep your sister alive." The girl's heart beat faster, and she pulled her sister closer to her chest. Her sister moaned weakly, her body twisting as if something was crawling under her skin. The human's expression hardened, and he pulled another tool from his case. It was a small device with thin wires that glowed faint green. The alien girl panicked and cried out, "No! Don't hurt her." The man stopped and looked at her, his voice firm but not unkind. "This is not to hurt," he said. "This is to see what is inside her." The child froze, her mind racing. She remembered her mother once telling her that humans could see inside bodies with strange machines. Her fear battled her hope, but her sister's gasps reminded her that time was running out. At last, she nodded weakly, tears falling down her face. "Do it," she whispered. "But please, don't take her away." The human placed the device gently against the little sister's skin. The wires glowed brighter, and a faint hum filled the air. The alien girl's heart pounded in her chest as she watched. For a moment nothing happened. Then the device flickered, showing strange symbols the child did not understand. The human's eyes narrowed as he read them. "This is bad," he muttered almost to himself. The child's fear grew sharper. "What is it? What's wrong?" she begged. The man looked at her, his expression serious. She is not only sick, he said slowly. Something else is inside her. The girl shook her head, confused. What do you mean inside her? The man's jaw tightened and his words came heavy. A parasite, he said. Not from your world and not from mine either. The alien girl's blood ran cold. Her eyes went wide as she stared at her sister. She could not understand how something could live inside her, but it explained the shaking, the burning heat, the glowing veins. Her voice broke into sobs. Can you take it out? The human did not answer at once. His eyes moved back to the device, then to the trembling child in her arms. Finally, he nodded slowly. I can try, he said. But it is dangerous. Very dangerous. The older sister's heart twisted. Torn between fear and desperation, dangerous or not, there was no choice. Please, she whispered. She is all I have. The man closed the device and packed it back into his case. Then he stood, scanning the ruins around them. The girl noticed his movements had changed. He was alert now, his hand resting close to the weapon on his side. She followed his gaze and felt her stomach turn cold. Shapes were moving in the distance, shadows slipping between the broken walls. Eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Watching. Hunting. The human's voice dropped low, steady but urgent. They are coming, he said. The girl's arms tightened around her sister, fear flooding her chest. Who is coming? She asked. The man's visor slid back down, his face hidden once more. Not friends, he answered. We have to move. The alien child's breath shook, her legs weak. I can't carry her far, she cried. The human reached down and lifted the trembling sister with ease, cradling her against his armored chest. Then I will carry her, he said firmly. His free hand reached out to the older girl. Stay close and don't look back. The child hesitated, staring. At his open hand, her people would never forgive her if they saw her trust a human. For a moment, the older sister thought she was burning alive, but then she saw it. A dark shadow rising from her sister's chest, a twisted shape like smoke and claws, tearing itself free. The girl gasped, her body falling limp in her arms. The parasite screamed, a horrible sound as the human trapped it in his device. He slammed the machine shut, locking the creature inside. Silence fell inside the shelter, broken only by the faint gasps of the little sister. Her body no longer shook, her glow fading slowly back to normal. The older child stared in shock, her tears dripping onto her sister's face. She is breathing, she whispered, her voice breaking with relief. The human leaned back, exhaustion heavy in his movements. She is weak, but alive, he said. I bought her time. The alien girl sobbed, hugging her sister close, her heart pounding with relief and fear. But before she could speak again, the shelter shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling, cracks splitting the stone. The feeders had grown wild, their claws tearing deeper, their hunger stronger. The human's eyes flashed as he rose to his feet, weapon in hand. They know the parasite is gone, he said, his voice sharp. They will not leave without a fight. The older sister clutched her sibling tightly, fear twisting inside her chest once more. She had trusted the human, and he had saved her sister, but now the monsters outside wanted blood, and the walls would not hold much longer. The human looked at her, his visor glowing in the dark. Stay with her, he said. No matter what happens, don't let go of her. The girl nodded, her tears shining in the faint blue light. Her heart screamed with fear, but deep inside a spark of hope remained. Outside, the monsters screamed again and the walls cracked. The final fight was coming, and the alien child realized that survival now rested on the strength of the human stranger who had answered her desperate cry. The shelter walls shook harder, pieces of stone falling from above. The feeders were furious, their claws cutting deep into the barrier, their screams echoing like thunder. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and fear, but also with a fragile hope. The little sister was alive. Her shaking had stopped, though her body was weak and pale. The older alien child held her close, her hands never letting go. Her eyes turned to the human who stood tall despite exhaustion, his weapon glowing faint blue in his hand. She whispered in a trembling voice, "They are coming in. What will we do?" The human's visor glowed as he looked at her, his voice strong. "Then I will hold them back, but your sister still needs more. She is not safe yet." The girl's heart dropped. "What do you mean? You saved her, didn't you?" she asked. The man shook his head slowly. "No. The parasite is gone, but it left scars inside her body. Her strength is draining fast. She will not last unless I give her more." The child's eyes filled with panic. "More? What can you give her?" The human knelt by his case, opening a small compartment inside his armored suit. He pulled out a small glowing core, a piece of metal filled with swirling blue energy. The alien child stared at it, her fear growing. "What is that?" she whispered. The man's voice was heavy. "This is the heart of my suit, the power that keeps me alive. If I use it on her, it may save her life, but it will drain mine." The girl gasped, shaking her head in disbelief. "No, you can't. You'll die," she cried. The man looked at her with calm, tired eyes. "I made my choice when I stepped out of the shadows to answer your cry," he said softly. Her tears fell faster, her voice breaking. "But why? Why would you risk everything for us? We are not even your people." The human's voice came low, filled with something she had never heard before. "Because life is life, no matter whose it is, and because no child should lose the only family she has left." The girl's chest ached, her throat tight with emotion. She wanted to argue, to stop him, but the weak breaths of her sister reminded her that time was running out. The human pressed the glowing core against the little sister's chest, his hand steady despite the tremble in his body. Light spread through her veins, her glow brightening once more, but gentler this time. The girl gasped as she saw her sister's color returning, her breaths growing stronger. She is healing," she whispered. But then she noticed the human's body slump, his breath growing heavier, his voice weaker. He was giving her his life. The feeders outside roared louder, the stone wall cracking open at last. A claw reached through, tearing at the rubble. The girl screamed, pulling her sister back. The human rose slowly, his weapon in one hand, though his movements were slower, weaker. His voice was calm but strained. "They are breaking through. I will hold them." The child shook her head, panic filling her chest. "You can't. You are too weak. You'll be killed." The man gave a faint smile, his visor glowing in the dark. "Then I will die protecting you," he said simply. He stepped forward as the first feeder forced its way through the crack, its red eyes burning like fire. The human raised his weapon and fired, blue light exploding, the creature shrieking. As it burned, the shelter filled with chaos, claws and screams mixing with the sound of fire and stone breaking. The girl clutched her sister tightly, hiding behind the human's tall frame. She had never seen anyone fight like this. Not even. In the old stories, the man's body shook, his armor sparking, his breath ragged, but he did not fall. Not yet. The feeders poured through the opening, their long limbs scraping against the walls, their hungry cries filling the air. The human swung his weapon, blasting them back one after another. Every shot shook his body, draining him more, but still he fought, protecting the children with every last drop of strength. The older sister's heart pounded, her small fists clenched. She wanted to help. But she was just a child, powerless against monsters. Her tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Why won't he stop? Why does he fight for us?" And then she understood. He fought because no one else would, because he had chosen them, even when the universe had not. The battle raged on, the human standing like a wall against the endless tide. His weapon cracked, his armor sparked, his body bent with exhaustion, but he did not let a single feeder pass him. The alien child watched in awe, fear, and sorrow. Her sister stirred in her arms, her glow steady, her breathing stronger. The sacrifice was working. Then the shelter shook violently as a larger feeder forced its way through the crack. Its body was massive, its claws long enough to tear through stone. The girl's heart froze, her breath stuck in her throat. The human staggered, his weapon, low, his body failing. But he stepped forward anyway, his voice a whisper, strong and steady. "You will not take them." The older sister cried out, "No, stop, you'll die." But the man did not listen. He charged, firing his weapon into the creature's burning eyes, the explosion shaking the ground. The monster fell back, shrieking, but the human collapsed to his knees, his strength finally gone. Silence filled the shelter for a moment, broken only by the growls of more feeders waiting in the dark. The alien girl's hands trembled as she pulled her sister close, her tears falling fast. The human lay weak, his chest rising, slowly his weapon slipping from his hand, yet his visor turned to her and his voice came soft. "Stay strong. Protect her," he whispered. The girl's heart screamed with fear and sorrow, but also with something new. For the first time, she felt a fire inside her, a courage she never knew she had. She looked at her sister, safe for now, and then at the human who had given everything. And in that moment she realized she could no longer hide. If he was willing to fight and bleed for them, then she would not let his sacrifice be in vain. Outside, the monsters roared again, tearing at the walls. The battle was not over, but the alien child was no longer just afraid. She was ready to stand. The shelter shook again, louder than before, dust falling like rain from the cracked ceiling. The feeders outside roared in hunger, their claws tearing against the stone, desperate to break through. The human knelt weakly, his armor sparking, his breath shallow, but his eyes were still sharp. The alien child held her sister tight, her tears running down her face. The little sister was breathing stronger now, her glow softer and calm. But the older sister knew the human had given too much of his own strength to save her. She looked at him, her voice trembling. "You can't fight anymore." The man's visor glowed faintly as he looked at her. "I have to," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "As long as I stand, they will not reach you." The girl's chest ached, her small hands trembling. She wanted to scream, to beg him not to fight, but she could see it in his eyes. He was ready to give his life to protect them. Her fear twisted into something else, a fire she had never felt before. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You won't stand alone." The man's tired eyes studied her, confusion flickering for a moment. She stood taller, her sister still cradled against her chest, her voice steadier now. "My people always told me humans only destroy, but you saved her, you saved us." She wiped her tears with her shaking hand, her eyes burning with new courage. "If you can fight for us, then I can fight for you." The human gave the faintest smile, a small spark of pride shining in his weary gaze. He handed her a smaller weapon from his side, a simple blade glowing faint blue. Her hands shook as she took it, the weight heavy but comforting. "Stay close," he said. "Do not let fear control you." The girl nodded, gripping the blade tightly, her heart racing. The shelter wall finally cracked open with a thunderous roar. The feeders poured in, their glowing red eyes filling the dark, their twisted bodies crawling like shadows made flesh. The human rose, his body weak but his spirit unbroken, weapon in hand. The alien child stood beside him, her small frame shaking, but her courage stronger than her fear. The first feeder lunged forward, its claws wide. The human fired, the blast, tearing through it, blue flames burning its body. Another creature rushed in and the girl swung her blade wildly, the glow cutting across its dark flesh. She gasped in shock as it fell, its scream piercing the air. Her hands trembled, but she realized something. She could fight. The monsters screamed louder. Pouring into the shelter, the man moved like a wall, blocking the path to the children, his weapon cutting through the swarm. The girl stayed close, her blade flashing whenever one slipped past him. Fear filled her chest, but she did not run. She fought side by side with the human. The little sister stirred in her arms, her glowing eyes opening faintly. She watched the battle through weak breaths, her lips whispering her sister's name. The older girl held her tighter, whispering back, "Stay with me, don't let go, we will make it." The feeders kept coming, their claws scraping stone, their screams shaking the walls. The human stumbled, his knees weak, his weapon almost slipping from his hand. The girl cried out, swinging her blade to protect him, striking another creature down. Her voice broke as she shouted, "Don't fall, please, don't fall." The man's breath was heavy, but he stood again. "You are stronger than you know," he said. "Don't stop." Together they fought, human and alien child, against a storm of monsters. Every strike, every scream, every step forward was a battle of survival. The girl's arms ached, her body weak, but she refused to stop. She thought of her sister's smile, of the man's sacrifice, and it gave her strength. At last, the largest feeder forced its way inside, its massive body filling the space. Its eyes glowed brighter than fire, its roar shaking the ground. The girl froze, her heart nearly breaking from the sight. The human staggered forward, his weapon raised, his voice strong despite his weakness. "This is the last one," he said. His hands shook, but his spirit did not. The monster charged, its claws tearing through stone. The man fired, blue light exploding, but the creature kept moving. The girl screamed and rushed forward, blade in hand. She struck with all her strength, her cry echoing through the shelter. The glowing blade cut deep into the monster's chest. The feeder roared in pain, stumbling, and the human fired again, finishing it with a blast of burning light. Silence filled the shelter, broken only by the sound of their breaths. The monsters lay in smoking piles, the air thick with dust and ash. The human fell to one knee, his strength finally gone. The alien girl dropped beside him, her blade falling from her tired hands. She stared at the ruined shelter, her tears mixing with sweat. "They're gone," she whispered, her voice shaking. "We're alive." The human gave a faint nod, his breath ragged. "You fought well," he said softly. "You were brave." The girl looked at him, her chest tight with emotion. "I wasn't brave alone," she whispered. "You gave me courage." The little sister coughed softly, her glowing eyes opening wider. She looked at her sister, then at the human, her weak voice trembling. "You saved me," she whispered. The man managed a small smile, though his body shook with exhaustion. "No," he said gently. "Your sister saved you." The older child hugged her sister tightly, her tears falling. For the first time, she felt not only fear but also pride. They had survived, together, with a stranger she had once feared, and she knew now that nothing would ever be the same again. The shelter was quiet at last, the broken walls still smoking from the fight. The smell of burned flesh and dust filled the air, but the endless roars of the feeders were gone. Only silence remained, heavy but peaceful. The human sat on the cracked floor, his weapon at his side, his body weak and trembling. Every breath sounded heavy, but he was alive. The older alien child knelt beside him, her arms still holding her sister close. Her hands shook, but her heart was filled with something she had never felt before. It was not fear, not despair, but hope. She looked at the man with wide, tear-filled eyes. "You saved us," she whispered, her voice breaking. The human turned his head slowly. His visor cracked, faint light flickering inside. His voice came low and tired, but steady. "No," he said. "We saved each other." The girl's chest tightened, her throat burning as more tears fell. She had never thought a human could speak words like that. Her sister stirred weakly in her arms, her glowing skin now calm, her breaths soft but steady. She opened her eyes, faint but shining, and looked at the man. Her small voice trembled. "Please, don't go." The human's eyes softened behind the visor. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, though his body shook with exhaustion. The older sister wiped her face with her sleeve, her voice still weak. "My people. They always said humans bring only death, only fire. But you—" She stopped, her words caught in her throat. The man gave a faint smile, his eyes closing for a moment. "Sometimes stories are wrong," he whispered. "Sometimes we get to write new ones." The girl's chest swelled with emotion. Her small, hands gripping tighter around her sister. She thought of the night before, when she had run through the ruins screaming for help. She had believed no one would ever answer. Yet here he was, a human who had risked everything for them. He had fought, he had bled, and he had given part of his life to save her sister. The silence was broken by the faint crackle of fire outside. The feeders' bodies burned in the distance, their threat gone for now. But the girl knew more dangers waited in the world beyond the ruins. She looked at the man, her voice steady for the first time. "What will we do now?" The human leaned back against the wall, his breath slow. "We keep moving," he said simply. "We find safety, food, water, maybe others who survived." The girl nodded, though her fear still lingered. But this time she did not feel alone. She had her sister, and now she had him. The younger sister whispered softly, her voice almost like a plea. "Will you stay with us?" The human's eyes opened again, and for a moment silence hung heavy between them. He studied the two children, the fragility of their small frames, the hope in their eyes. Then he gave a single nod. "Yes," he said, his voice steady. "I will stay as long as you need me." The older sister's tears fell again, but this time they were not from fear. She pressed her forehead against her sister's and whispered, "We are not alone anymore." The human slowly stood, his legs shaking, but his spirit unbroken. He picked up his weapon and the glowing case, his visor sparking faint light. Then he turned to the girls, his voice calm. "Stay close to me and you will live." The children nodded, their small hands gripping tightly onto his armor as he led them out of the broken shelter. The ruins stretched wide under the faint morning light. The clouds were breaking, letting soft rays of the sun fall onto the cracked stones. The world was still scarred, still dangerous. But something had changed. For the first time, the alien child did not see only ruins. She saw the path ahead, and she believed there was a future. They walked slowly, the human carrying the younger sister on his back, the older girl at his side, her small hand gripping his tightly. Her steps were unsteady, but her heart was stronger than it had ever been. She looked up at him, her voice soft. "Can I ask you something?" He glanced down, his tired eyes gentle. "Yes," he said. She hesitated, her words heavy but honest. "Why did you choose us?" The man looked forward, the rising sun reflecting on his cracked visor. For a long moment he did not speak. Then, his voice came, quiet but full of meaning. "Because you cried out for help and no one should be left unanswered." The girl's chest ached, her throat tight, but her lips curved into a faint smile. She squeezed his hand and whispered, "Then, thank you." They walked on, three figures against the broken world. A human and two alien children, bound not by blood but by survival, sacrifice, and trust. Their story was only beginning, and as the morning light grew stronger, one truth shined. Brighter than the scars of the past, humans were not only destroyers, they could be protectors too. And in that moment, a bond stronger than fear, stronger than stories, was born. The alien child looked at her sister, then at the human beside her, her voice soft but full of promise. "We will stay together, no matter what comes." The man nodded, his tired but steady voice answering, "Yes, together." And so in the ruins of a broken world, hope walked forward with them step by step.